During the offseason, the Baltimore Ravens gambled big, and the question now is that gamble really paying off? The team has been hit with a rash of injuries, and what was thought of as a strength is now a big question.
Ah, ah.
And a Baltimore Ravens legend has made some comments that has sparked a friendly debate. All this and more in this upcoming video. But first, let's get it. It was all good just a week ago. I don't know why this seems to be a common theme each and every week after the Ravens play a game or have a big practice. It seems like something goes right and then something else goes wrong. But heading into week 3 of the preseason, these Baltimore Ravens have been hit with a rash of bad news. Yes, the Ravens defeated the Cowboys 31-13 to go 2-0 in the preseason, but it was not without cost. Another game, another tragedy. Another player stands out, another player goes down with injury. And this time the injured player is Adisa Isaac, who dislocated his elbow. It was initially thought that he was going to be out for a couple of weeks, but it is now determined that he's going to be out probably until mid-season, if not even longer. So now that opens up a possibility of what are the Ravens going to do when it comes to pass rush. Now this may have opened the door for David Ojabo to remain on the roster, but that edge room is still packed. It's all going to come down to the numbers. What do the Ravens feel they need more than another? What position is going to take priority? And if you know anything about the Ravens, you know that it is going to be the cornerback room. When the offseason first got started, we thought to ourselves, nobody's going to throw on this team. This is going to be the no-fly zone. With all that the Ravens have added to this defensive backfield, with all the number 1 picks that they have at every position, both safeties, 3 starting corners. We all thought that the Ravens would shut down the most high-flying, the most potent offenses in the NFL. But slowly but surely, things started to dissipate. And one of the biggest questions heading into the season is Jair Alexander. This was a low-risk, high-reward signing that a lot of people thought was going to take the Ravens over the top and help them to a Super Bowl. But it came with a caveat. People knew that he was talented. People knew that he was worth whatever contract he got this offseason, but could he remain healthy? And here we are entering week 3 of the preseason, and we already have questions about his health. When it comes to practice, Jair is there one practice and he misses 1 or 2, then he comes back for 1. And the question is his surgically repaired knee going to be able to stand the brunt of a full season? So right now, the Ravens are holding him out in hopes that he can get everything together. Now, we still have a little bit under a month before the regular season starts, but things are not looking good. Then we go back a couple of weeks and we lost both second-round picks, Robert Longerbeam and Bilal Coney. So that's 2 more cornerbacks that have gone down. Then we talk about safety Kyle Hamilton returning to practice yesterday. He missed about 6 straight practices, came in, and then was out again. What's going on with Kyle? We don't know. So when it comes to the secondary that we thought was going to be the best in the NFL, right now it's looking a little bit fragile. Rookie safety Malachi Starks has been looking really good in games and in practice, but Kyle Hamilton is what most concerns me. Yes, he returned to practice yesterday, but he only did individual drills. After that, he went back on the sideline and kind of chilled. What's going on with him? The Ravens aren't saying much, and that position group is becoming really thin. Now, Bo Braid had himself a game on Saturday. Sanusi Kane has been steady, but without Kyle Hamilton, this Ravens defense is going to look a lot different. So when it comes to entering week 1, what are the Ravens going to keep? Are they going to keep more defensive backs, which leaves less at edge, which is going to leave less at the linebacker position in itself? Who's going to make the cut? Who's going to be the final 53 men on this roster? Who's going to be that IR stash? The regular season is steadily approaching and it's coming fast. Pause. So health-wise, the Ravens have to figure something out. So the Ravens did go out and sign cornerback Thomas Graham Jr., the former 2021 6th-round pick, former Chicago Bear, former Cleveland Brown, former Pittsburgh Steeler. Seems to be a necessity for this team right now because they don't have enough guys that they're going to play, because they're not going to overwork Marlowe. They're not going to overwork Wiggins. They're trying to keep their reps down, trying to keep them healthy, because we only really have 2 starting caliber cornerbacks on the roster right now. with Jair being hurt. I know Jalen Armour Davis has played well, but we've seen these preseason standouts get in regular season games and not do the same thing. Cheeto, he's been nicked up a little bit himself. And everybody's savior, TJ Tampa, from what I saw in that game on Saturday, they were beating him up. And these are not starting caliber wide receivers. So what's going to happen when he gets in a game? I just think that him being hurt last season and not being able to get on the field has kind of set him back a little bit. I don't think he's quite ready. He doesn't have the long speed to keep up with a lot of these wide receivers. So he's going to have to work a little bit more on his technique, his playbook, knowing where to be. And then if you don't have Kyle over the top or whatever, masking certain things for guys that aren't up to what we expect from these defensive backs, it could be a long season. But hopefully everybody gets everything together. Now, offensively, Keaton Mitchell also came back, but he once again was another one that only went through individual drills and didn't fully go through a practice. And this is something that I said before with rookie season, injured twice in about 90 snaps. He's been nicked up in the preseason. That's why I want to use him sparingly during the regular season. He has not shown that he can be healthy, as dynamic as he is. The way that he changes the game for the Ravens, I just don't think that they can overutilize him because these things happen. Now, it may be something minor, but if you cannot practice, that says a lot for somebody that hasn't had too many snaps in the preseason. And then when it comes to the offensive line, Emory Jones Jr., they said he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, duh. The man has not done anything. He's not been to a mini camp, OTA, training camp. Of course, he's not going to be ready. So there goes someone that could possibly be a backup on this offensive line. So the Ravens have a lot of injuries that they need to overcome before the start of the season. Hopefully, they are just minor things, some nagging injuries, but things could be a little more serious, especially when it comes to Jair Alexander. Luckily, the Ravens have certain things in place who may not be the caliber of Jair, but they will not get caught out there. So hopefully things work out. We'll see who's practicing and who's playing this week in preparation to play the Washington Commanders. And of course, when you look at injuries, you want to look at replacement players, guys who could come in and maybe take their place, start, back up, give some depth to the team. And some news around the league is there have been a couple of signings that take some players off the board for the Baltimore Ravens. Matt Judon just signed with the Miami Dolphins. I know a lot of people wanted to see him come back and play for the Ravens, go out on his farewell tour for his last few years, but that is now not a possibility. And then last night, if you watch the Cincinnati Bengals and this offensive line struggle, it was crazy how bad their offensive line is. Like, I don't understand how you can have a defense that bad and an offensive line equally as bad, but they did not look good. So the scuttlebutt, the rumor is that the Bengals are bringing in guard Dalton Risner for a visit. I guarantee you he's an upgrade at anything Cincinnati has on their team right now. That is another player that is taken off the board. So hopefully the Ravens can get through this last preseason game. We can go through the season without a hitch because now this is another starting caliber guy that the Ravens are looking into that other teams are going to sign. And I know that the Ravens have a lot of young depth on this team. They have a lot of young guys that through time and effort and practice could get a lot better, but right now they just may not be able to start if something goes wrong. So knock wood, hopefully nothing goes wrong. Hopefully there is a fair competition across the board at all positions that are up for grabs, and the guys that don't win it, if in a pinch, they can come in and keep things afloat until the Ravens can get things right. And one competition that has been decided before the season even started was the left guard position. Yes, Ben Cleveland. He was supposed to be in competition with Andrew Voorhees for the left guard position, but we know it was already predetermined. But my thing is, a lot of people have been saying that Ben Cleveland deserves a shot. He's the better option, even at right guard. And my thing is, we don't play favorites around here. Now, if you know, you know, we played the tape a couple videos ago about Daniel Faalele just being flat on his back. It was what it was, bad play. Now, when it comes to somebody else, you can't let that slide. And Ben Cleveland, this is your week. Like, this is you today not being able to stand up as an NFL offensive lineman.
This is it. Make no mistake where you are. This is it. You're going further.
So I just do that clip in there, not to embarrass anybody, but to show fair is fair. Not that we're picking on Daniel Faalele. If you end up on your ass, we're going to show it. I don't care who it is. I just thought that this was funny to me, and I just wanted to show and be fair. And before we get into our last topic, I want to talk about the Cleveland Browns being the Cleveland Browns, just doing Brown type things. I don't understand how the powers that be I don't understand the people in charge. I don't understand. I've tried to give Cleveland the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes you just have to scratch your head and say, you will never learn. Like, no matter what happens, you just don't get it. Like, some things just don't compute, and you cannot seem to put the right people in place. I don't understand how they cannot draft to save their life. They cannot bring in guys to help their team no matter what they do. And then when it comes to head scratching moves, they did it again. The Browns have signed wide receiver Isaiah Bond. Now, Bond had some legal issues that have been recently cleared, and the Browns signed him. No problems there. See nothing wrong with that. They need wide receiver help. They need quarterback help more than anything, but I understand they're trying to get weapons. But you have this guy who was an undrafted free agent, went through some legal issues. So you would think that in negotiations, the leverage is held by the team. Like, the team holds all the cards, which in this case they do. But somehow the Cleveland Browns went on Clevelanding and signed Bond to a over $3 million fully guaranteed contract, which is the largest in NFL history for an undrafted free agent. $3 million fully guaranteed. Yes, it is a 3-year deal, but for it to be fully guaranteed is crazy at $3 million. Prior to that, in 2024, the highest guaranteed contract was $350,000. So we went from $350,000 to $3 million. Make that make sense. That is more guaranteed money than the first player selected in the 3rd round. And this guy did not get drafted. You would have thought that the Browns would have learned from signing Deshaun Watson to a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. They didn't. They just love shelling out money. And I'm not saying that Bond is not going to be worth it, but you don't know. You could have gotten him for cheaper. But I do applaud the Browns on one front. I like the fact that they're trying to change the narrative and get these players paid. They were one of the first teams to give their 2nd round pick a fully guaranteed contract. So kudos to them. But just in a bubble, just the perception outside, it looks like you guys don't know what you're doing, and you have to overpay for everybody that you bring in. But as I said before, I'm all for the players getting paid. Make as much money as you can. Football is the most physical sport, and they get paid the least. So you have to maximize. You have to capitalize on your opportunities every chance that you get, and I'm all for it. So now we get to the good stuff. On the Ravens win over the helpless, sad Cowboys. Announcer, Hall of Famer, former Raven, Super Bowl champion, former Steeler, commentator Rod Woodson said Lamar Jackson could not beat the 2000 Ravens. And a lot of people really didn't think too much of it because, it's Saturday night. We watch TV. Some people may have some libations. You just sitting back thinking like, oh, okay. But then it turned into something else. And Lamar Jackson responded, and everybody wanted to give their input. So now I'm giving my input on this situation. Yes, love the Ravens. I was one of those guys that talked about the 2000 Ravens being possibly one of the greatest defenses of all time for a while, until I started studying football and looking at the minutia of some little issues that may conflate things a little bit. Let's just say that. Let's just say some things that make you go, And yes, that 2000 Ravens defense was it. Lowest points per game through a 16-game season in NFL history. Least amount of rushing yards ever. Ray Lewis, Peter Boulware, Mike McCrary, Rod Woodson, Chris McAllister, Sam Adams. Loaded across the board. Tony Siragusa. Yes, they had guys across this defense. That defense carried us to a Super Bowl. But I'm going to tell you something a little bit controversial, and you may have heard me say this before. That is not even the Ravens' greatest defense, in my opinion. As great as they were, as dominant as that season was, to me, that's not even the best Baltimore Ravens defense. Best Baltimore Ravens defense didn't happen until Ed Reed got here. That would be the 2006 iteration of Baltimore. Now, the numbers are comparable. I'm going to read off the numbers to you just to let you know how close the two were. 2000 Ravens were first in points, as well as the 2006 Ravens. When it comes to yards, 2000 Ravens were second in the league. 2006 Ravens were first in yardage allowed. 2000 Ravens first in turnovers with 49. 2006 Ravens were second in turnovers with 40. When it comes to passing yards, the 2000 Ravens gave up 2,997 yards. 2006 Ravens gave up 3,011 yards. 2000 Ravens were second in the league in giving up 15 touchdown passes. 2006 Ravens were fifth in the league in giving up 16 touchdown passes. 2000 Ravens League record, only gave up 970 yards, which was first in the league. And the 2006 Ravens were second in the league, giving up 1,214 yards. When it comes to rushing touchdowns, the 2000 Ravens and the 2006 Ravens were both first in the league, giving up 5 touchdowns. Now, statistically, they are pretty close in mostly all of the categories. The 2000 Ravens have them beat, but this is where things, to me, kind of push it toward the 2006 Ravens over the 2000 Ravens. And the difference is quarterback play. The level of quarterbacks that each team had to go against. 2000 Ravens played against Kent Graham, Mark Brunell twice, who in one game threw for 386 yards and 3 touchdowns. They also went against Jay Fiedler, Scott Mitchell, Tim Couch, Brad Johnson, Steve McNair twice, Wardell Stewart, Achilles Smith, Troy Aikman, with no offensive line and no Michael Irvin, Doug Peterson, yes, that Doug Peterson, head coach of the Eagles, Jaguars, that guy, Ian Leaf, Jake Plummer, and Vincent Testaverde. First quarterback in Ravens history. In his 14th year, interception Ted threw for 481 yards and 2 touchdowns. Year 14, that guy, darn near 500 yards. And I know some of you aren't going to get it because you didn't grow up football fans or you weren't around at that time, but most of those quarterbacks were garbage. That's at that time was Mark Brunell. And we look at the 2006 Ravens, and they had some clunkers at quarterback as well. They also had some dudes that were about that. 2006 Ravens went against Chris Sims, Andrew Walter, Charlie Fry, who was hot that year. A lot of y'all don't know. Cleveland had some good quarterback play here and there, just not consistently. Not to make excuses, but he wasn't that guy. He wasn't that guy. Future Hall of Famer Phillip Rivers, Jake Plummer, Jake Delhomme with a prime Steve Smith, Drew Brees, Carson Palmer twice, Vince Young, Michael Vick, Ben Roethlisberger twice, Trent Green, Derek Anderson, and J.P. Losman. When you compare those 2 years and the level of quarterback play, there is a notable difference between the two. With the numbers being so similar, that's what pushes me towards the 2006 season. And I can't remember in 2000 which quarterback got knocked out, but I remember Spurgeon Wynn had to come into the game. Now, a lot of y'all aren't going to know who Spurgeon Wynn is, because pretty much after that game, it was a wrap. They knew he couldn't play in the NFL. So just level of competition. Yes, yardage. Yes, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. But sometimes numbers do not tell the full truth. It doesn't tell the entirety of the story. So when you talk about these guys and what those defenses had to face, when you talk about a Mark Brunell, 386 yards, when you talk about a Vincent Old Man Testaverde throwing for damn near 500, you really think that you are not going to stop Lamar Jackson? And I'm talking about this iteration, this 2024 coming off of what should have been an MVP type season. You're telling me you are going to stop that? Lamar said it. It depends on what rules we're playing by. We're playing by old rules or new rules. But to me, it honestly doesn't matter. Yes, the Ravens were dominant in 2000. I love Peter Boulware. I love Chris McCallum. That whole defense, love them dudes. They brought us our first championship. They are not keeping up with Lamar Jackson. And if Vincent Testaverde, Mark Brunell can throw for that, why wouldn't Lamar be able to? And if we're talking about this team right now versus that, Derrick Henry may give us fits as well. Because there was a game in Cleveland. I can't remember. Was it Willie? I can't remember his name. Something Green. He had like 74 yards in the first quarter. Now, granted, they may have rushed for like 15 yards the rest of the game, or maybe had 15 total. Like, they shut them down after that. But do you honestly think you shutting down Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, as great as you are, as great as Ray Lewis is? There were times and there were teams that have gotten the best of us. Jaguars for years. It took years, about 5 years, for the Ravens to consistently compete with the Jaguars, because they would light us up, no matter how good our defense was. You think that Lamar Jackson couldn't do it? Come on, bro. I thought this was just a friendly debate. Like, could the Ravens stop the Ravens? I'm here to tell you, Rod Woodson, as great as you were, and a lot of people don't know, you were an all-pro cornerback before you were a safety. Like, Rod Woodson is that dude. He was that guy. But I'm here to tell you, bro. Lamar said himself, me and him one-on-one, ain't no contest. And that's the truth. You ain't stopping that. I just thought it was a friendly debate. Nothing real serious, something light, just something to talk about. The truth be told, I'm saying that the 2024 Ravens would beat the 2000 Ravens, which they might, because if we think about it, offensively, they weren't the best. Like, had to hold teams under a certain amount of points to win games. The 24 Ravens could beat you on offense, times can shut you down on defense. So it would have been a good game to watch, but now we can just speculate. I'm here to tell you, ain't nothing 2000 Ravens was going to do against Lamar Jackson.